I'm actually gonna do a roll call first, and then we're gonna do amend the agenda. So, please, call out if you're here. Mr. Nipple? Here. Mr. Meyer?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Present.
Mr. Owens?
Here.
Mr. Priest?
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Strasser is not here and will not be on Zoom for the roll call, and myself is here. Need a motion to agenda, for tonight. Could I get a motion to amend the agenda that you have at your table here? Thank you, Steve.
Second.
Thank you. Motion second, any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Since we have no Zoom, we'll do it that way. Okay, I'd like to stand, pledge allegiance. Flag is back there. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, anybody from the audience wishing to speak on any of the agenda items at this point? Can you stand up, name please?
Tim Connor,
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
and I'm also going to be reading something for Mr. Dennison.
Okay. And you'll be doing for the public hearing, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Leslie Pickering for the public hearing. Jody Dennison for the public hearing.
Okay.
Now,
Yep.
you're gonna start now?
No,
Yeah.
we can do that during the, you do that during the public.
Yeah, we'll do it during the
Yeah.
public
Okay,
hearing.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
First, just confirm officially. Anybody else with that?
Yeah, is anybody else? Nobody else from the public would like to speak on any agenda item?
I will.
Oh,
About the, sorry, lost my train of thought. The, teacher compensation. The public
could you
hearing.
please state your name?
Andrea Smothers,
Right? Yeah.
What was that?
Okay,
Same thing.
the public hearing for the
Yep.
teachers. Yep. All right, any others? All right, if not, we'll close that. Approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes for the regular session on July 19, 2021, and the work session we had July 26, 2021. You had them in your packet. Need a motion to approve?
Mr. President, I move we accept the minutes of July 19th and July 26th as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any corrections, discussions on the minutes as you see them?
Just one thing I got, and Carla, you may have to look into this, but I think we missed approving minutes from the July 14th session. It wasn't on last meeting. I think it was exec session, July 14th. I think we might have missed approving.
Okay.
Just check and we'll stick that on the next meeting.
I can take a look too. You know, what, was that been for, July exec session, right?
July 14th.
We have July 19th, so it would be, just completed that, yeah, thank you. It'd be on July 19th, it was.
I didn't get anything.
Okay.
I just,
So, we'll make sure we get that. Minutes of the exec session, everybody. All right. Anything else? All right. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
hearing. Public hearing A, and this is for SEA 390 for the collective bargaining. Public testimony regarding teachers' compensation. If you will, Mr. Connor, Tim, if that's okay, whichever you want, just come up front so we can hear each one of you. And when you get ready to speak, if you restate your name again for us, that'd be great.
Okay, this is.
Just before we start, can we just establish we have proper notice in the newspaper, is that correct? Circle. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is required by state statute before you can begin teach negotiations, and then after you reach a contract, not even actually reach the contract, but you come back again before the board and have another opportunity for public comment on the proposed final contract.
We do not need a motion to open the public
No,
hearing.
no.
Okay,
John.
we're good.
All right, so this is from Mr. J. Dennison, and I don't know his address. He lives behind elementary school. It says, "Dear Board of Trustees, our data shows our bargaining unit has increased and by the 15 certified members since 2014. The number of certified staff is up to 92 as of last year and increased again this year. Delphi has shown strong growth in membership of the association compared to 16 other school corporations in our area. In negotiating a salary schedule last year, we attempted to make things fair and equal among all of our staff members. Our goal is to maintain this idea of fairness and equality so we can gain and sustain quality teachers. Among our increase in staffing and the state recommendation of beginning salaries, we ask that the school board help us equal out our salary grid and keep in mind the staff that have dedicated many years to the corporation. We do not want to see staff come and go or create tension between our dedicated teachers. This movement of teachers will affect the continuity of our staff and cause instability for our students. Thank you, Jay Dennison." Okay, and this is from me. So my name's Tim Connor, and I'm president of Delphi Classroom Teachers Association. I want to thank the board of Mrs. Circle for allowing us the time to meet tonight. I think that this is a crucial contract for DCSC. We have bargained for 5 years in a row, and last year we finally got a salary grid and our first raise in 8 years. Where do we go from here? One, I think we need to address this issue of staff retention. It is important to maintain the salary grid. This is a means for a teacher to progress their salary and to encourage staff members to stay. When we hire new staff members, we need to look at the salaries of our existing staff members. Are they being passed by new employees? We are working on a spreadsheet that will help show how you can, for the board and for the administrators to compare. Like, for example, if I were to retire, on this spreadsheet, you would have my salary. It would have the salary of the new hire in there, along with their education. And we would throw in experience just as a point of reference. And then we would also put in an existing staff member's salary who with a comparable education and experience, so you can compare everything to see what kind of a gain or what kind of a loss. Because there have been some people with the new hires that have been passed by. And once Mrs. Circle and I get that tweaked out along with Mr. Dennison, hopefully she can share that with you. I'd like to take the time to think about the amount of time and money that teachers are working to get their rooms ready to prepare for this school year. You might feel that this is an expectation, but for us, we have a parent night on Wednesday, and our rooms have to be ready, and we've had very little time to get it done outside of our own time. My father worked for almost 40 years in a factory, and he was always compensated for his time. Please note he never had to supply the sand to make the core. Sterling Casting always supplied the materials. I would suggest you tour the rooms in the buildings just to see how much time and money is supplied by our own staff members to get ready for the upcoming school year. Fourth, we need a 2-year contract. This will be proof of financial stability of the corporation, and if we don't, we will have to negotiate again for 7 years in a row. And fifth, there is the issue of bringing the minimum salary to $40,000, and this was brought up by the state. We must also see how this will impact are other early career educators. What do we do when a teacher with several years' experience finds themselves only making maybe $500 or $1,000 more than a new teacher? When we look at the many challenges and concerns that face DCSC, you can see that most of them started at the state level and were not done by the board and not done by the teachers. It was a huge mistake when the state eradicated the salary schedule. It has caused so much confusion in districts across the state. Budget cuts at the state level cause more difficulties. Rural districts have had to work around a funding formula that is skewed against them and favors more larger urban and suburban districts. On behalf of the Delphi Classroom Teachers Association, I want to thank you for your time. We look forward to creating a contract that is equitable to current staff and encourages teachers to join DCSC, build their careers here, and enhance our community. Thank you very much.
Mr. Connor, can I ask a favor?
Sure.
You forward those letters to Ms. Circle so she can get them out to the board.
Okay,
If you
well,
can.
I will tell you, I have never used this before until tonight, so once I get it figured out how to send it out, I will do it. Okay? I promise.
Kids in your class will help you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Okay, who wants to come up next? Mrs. Pickering?
I'm just gonna read because it's easier, because obviously it's easier to talk to kids than it is to peers. So, Leslie Pickering, 465 West, 175 North, Flora, Indiana, 46929. Not good. I apologize. Not used to doing this. So, thank you for taking the time to listen to us tonight. I absolutely love Delphi Community School Corporation. It was 8 years ago that I was at another corporation, and I did not have the same philosophy of education as they did. I received a phone call from Mr. Walker asking if I was ready to return to Delphi school system. I was a special education teacher here from the year 2000 to 2006. The only reason I left here was to get closer to home. I was spending way too much money on gas. I had fallen asleep at the wheel, and I had just had twins. And I was living in Galveston, Indiana. I was also going to make more money at another corporation. It was an easy decision. After being there for 7 years, I realized it was time to leave. Like I said, different philosophies. See, I had been at a corporation before, Delphi, where I felt like a family. I had been at a corporation where I knew I belonged. I had been at a corporation where I knew what it felt like to be in a school corporation that cared about education. The problem is, I now had a family to think about first. When I received that phone call from Mr. Walker, I knew being a teacher, I could go anywhere. I came and I re-interviewed at Delphi. He showed me the numbers and how within a year, I would bump up in the pay scale, because at that time, it was still in, showing my age. I would go from the Legacy salary, however, that was null and void, and I would go to the Delphi pay scale. Unfortunately, you lost that pay scale the next year, which was a huge blow to my salary. I then lost, from moving from my old pay scale to yours, $10,000. Everything that was promised to me did not happen because the pay scale that I was shown was no longer in place. I was extremely frustrated. I did not leave because I loved Delphi Community School Corporation. My family and I had uprooted to make Delphi our permanent home. My kids love it here, and it was easy. It wasn't easy, at first. They missed their friends and home base, but I knew that education had to be a priority for my family. And I knew money didn't matter. Being happy mattered. I never really worried about the money because I figured eventually it would make itself up. I would take on extra things like the print shop someday, student council, I could coach. I surely could add more to my plate to increase my salary. I was told it would eventually work itself out. Unfortunately, stipend after stipend after stipend, it has not. It is extremely frustrating as a teacher that I've had to get a second job, and it's sometimes even another one. I've had to reconsider if this is where I need to be, but I always know that this is where I'm supposed to be. In order to best support my family, though, it's something every year I have to come back and figure out. because unfortunately, those twins are headed off to college. This breaks my heart. I have 3 kids that I have to think about. That's not Delphi's problem, that's a me problem. I don't want to uproot them again, so they will stay. I also have to think about my financial future and their future. I know that the board has our best interest at heart. I know that. I appreciate that you put the pay scale back in. It seems like hope. I know that it changed a few minds of my colleagues last year. I know because I talked to them, and I know they were getting their resume ready, and they stopped because you put the pay scale in, and they saw the benefit of it. More and more has been added to our plate, however, and I know that's not your fault. We are not thought of at bargaining time, and that can be frustrating. Again, I remember when we were bargaining for someone's salary and a community member stood up in the boardroom and said, remember the teachers when it's time to negotiate. And we did not bat an eye in an increase at that time when the corporation could not afford it. When that time came 2 years ago, there was no money. And again, the teachers union stepped back and said we would do what was best for the corporation, our students, and the community. Yet here we are again. Let's remember that pay scale. Last year we fought for it. We have lost several great teachers and staff in the past few years to other professions and to local schools. We come up with money to pay for special positions, but what about teachers? Some teachers are frustrated because they have stayed dedicated to Delphi, yet new hires are hiring in it more than them sometimes. What about some of our other staff? I think we really need to dig deep as to why that is. Why can we find the money for some and not others? I don't understand it, and again, that's not my job, and I get that it's hard. Why is the staff not staying? Here's the other thing. I have 2 hats. As a parent of 3 children that attend this school corporation, this is disappointing. We need consistency. We need teachers in this building that our kids are familiar with. I know that it's easier on my 3 kids. It is not easy when a new teacher comes into this building and they don't know who they are. I want my kids to grow up knowing their teachers. I do not want a revolving door for my kids. As a parent, I want our teachers to feel valued. I want there to be familiar faces at Delphi. I want my kids to know our teachers want to call Delphi home and stay here. I do not want us to be a training ground for other school corporations. As a parent, these teachers deserve to have comparable salaries to surrounding corporations. I think that's all they're really asking for. They deserve to feel appreciated. As a taxpayer, it is time to support our schools and do right by our students. We have to show them we value our teachers by supporting them. Not only me, all teachers. The community is great in stepping up in a time of need. Now you as a board and corporation need to show them that we value our children and the value of retaining consistency and honestly good and great teachers. I love Delphi. I was not born and raised here. I'm a transplant, so to speak. However, please know this. My heart bleeds black and gold. I want my kids to grow up and want to come back and be proud of where they came from. I want my kids to come back from college or bring their families back and see former teachers, and it'll probably be Mr. Connor still, and be able to brag about their accomplishments and thank their former teachers. I do not want them to come back and say, I have no clue who anyone is around here anymore in 3 years. Thank you for your time. I know that you work hard, and I appreciate your time and energy that you put into our school corporation. I know it's a thankless job being on the board. Thank you.
My name's Jody Dennison, and I teach high school science, and I'm not as well prepared, so this is going to be coming from the heart. But, I've been here, I think I'm going on my 10th year here. I've had my teaching license for 24 years. So I was, in the system when we actually got pay raises every year, which would encourage us to stay at the school corporation that we were at. I hate that we have obviously gotten away from that, and we've been stagnant in our pay increase, for pretty much the whole time that I've been here. But, my area is especially hard to find teachers, and you had teachers leave because they can go to Harrison or McCutcheon or whatever and make a lot more money than what we can here. Although they like it here, they like the smallness, they like the fact that we get to know the students, which is why I love teaching here, and I don't plan on leaving. But finding a science teacher, as we all know, is very hard, and we need to keep the ones that we have, because I think, especially now, we have a good group of science teachers, and I don't want to lose any of them. And I just want you guys to keep that in mind when you go to negotiate this, is that we need to be competitive and allow, for science teachers, especially, and math teachers, and well, any teacher right now, to really want to stay here, because it is a great school corporation to work for. Like I said, I don't plan on leaving, and, I'm here probably till I retire, but it doesn't mean that with 2 kids in college, I'm not taking on, extra work to help pay.
Thank you.
Andrea Smothers, 313 Hundred Drive. I'm the parent of 2 children who attend elementary school and middle school here at Delphi, and also a member of the PTA at elementary school. I kind of wrote some notes. I did a little thing, but I'm not going to read it because it's too analytical. I guess I just want to speak from experience that I have. I work for a not-for-profit, a statewide not-for-profit, who kind of similar works like a school board in some ways, with a board of directors and some things. And we just went through a whole wage reconciliation in the last 2 years. It's an interesting process. And so I was an employee that was asked to be on that committee. So during that process, I learned quite a bit. And one of the things I just really want to speak to is the fact that what I learned most about that was the fact that most people, for the most part, don't do their job just for money. They do it for a calling or a love or a dedication. But the compensation that they receive is what helps them maintain that drive and that commitment. And that's what allows them to be focused on that and not worried about if they can't make the mortgage payment, send their kid to college, take on a 3rd job to make ends meet. And so that was an interesting perspective that I gained through that. And I think that's something that the board needs to recognize, is that it's not just throwing money at someone, it's going to keep them here, but it is part of the process for which they can evaluate their balance in their life to determine whether or not it's worth coming to work for our school corporation.
Thank you. Okay, this time, I'll close the public hearing on collective bargaining. And we will go to the public hearing for our project hearing. And Mrs. Circle, as well as myself, will be handling that. And I will be asking the board for some motions to periodically out the thing. So, Ms. Circle, I'll let you start out.
The board should have the different exhibits as we go through. I'm going to try to explain these. There's a legal process, so I will warn you, there's going to be a lot of legal discussion here, and hopefully you can hear me. We are looking at a bond lease resolution, and this is a meeting to inform the public and the school corporation and the board of the preliminary process that we are about to embark upon. Under the Indiana law, whenever a school corporation proposes to construct or renovate a school building at a cost in excess of $1 million, it must first hold a public hearing. Notice of the project hearing for the school corporation was published in the Carroll Comment on August 4th, 2021, and on the Delphi Community website starting on July 28th, 2021. It was all interested people may give testimony and or ask questions concerning the renovation of and the improvements to the facility through the school corporation, including roof, HVAC, maintenance, and site improvements at Delphi Community Middle School and Delphi Community High School. The purpose of this hearing is twofold: to inform the public of the proposed project and to allow interested parties, taxpayers, and patrons of the school corporation to voice their opinion as to the project and ask any questions. Okay, we're first gonna discuss the need. An investigation has been conducted by the Board of School Trustees of Delphi Community School Corporation with the assistance of Performance Services and Trimco with respect to the renovation and improvement to the facility throughout the school corporation. This included roofing, HVAC, maintenance, site improvements at Delphi Community Middle and Delphi Community High School. The following items were found to be needed by Performance Services, Trimco, and Delphi Community School Board. Completion of middle school and high school roofing. The east end of the middle school still needs to be completed, and the entire ag wing still needs to have their roof resurfaced. All pneumatic controls for the HVAC system in the middle school, all HVAC system in the middle school, all VAV, which is variable air volume boxes in the high school agricultural wing, the high school rooftop handler located above the LMC, all the domestic piping at the high school and the cafeteria, the locker rooms, and the pipes that are heading towards the middle school, and all exhaust fans for both the middle school and high school need replaced. The estimated cost for the project will be approximately $5 million for the performance services, the air concerns, and approximately $300,000 from Trimco, which brings the estimated total at $5.3 million. The Delphi Community School Board now finds the need exists for the project. The school corporation cannot provide the necessary funds to pay the cost of the project, which will require us to meet such a need. Therefore, the project will be funded by a proposed second amendment of an existing lease agreement that was originally dated as of April 12th, 2010. The second amendment extends the term of the original lease and allows the school corporation to utilize a new bond. Since this fall, under improvements for students, this falls under the improvements for student education, it will be tax exempt. This second amendment extends the term of the original lease to December 31st, 2040, and increases the annual lease rental by a maximum of $1,046,000, which is payable on June 30th and December 31st, beginning with the completion of the project, or December 31st, 2022. Please note that this is not an exact figure, but parameters that we could fall in. So the max payment cannot be more than $1,046,000. As the debt service falls off, the maximum increase to taxpayers could possibly be 6 cents for 1 year. But the school corporation's net assessed value is currently showing a 6% increase, which means the school might levy more tax, and thus all these factors could mitigate any tax incremental increase. I want to go ahead and show a couple visuals. I don't know how we're going to do this, but it's kind of facing the board. Because I don't know about you, but visuals make more sense. Yeah, how do we want to do this? Just push back.
Some out here.
You want to pull it back down? Here, Scott's got a plan.
Back it up that way.
Yes.
Oh. Have you heard right there? Chris, I'm gonna come over to that.
The pillar's kind of in the way there.
I think that's,
Good?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. Okay, Carly. There we go.
Oops.
Yeah, perfect, okay. Okay, the first thing that I would like to show you is, if you take a look at, this is our debt service, and it looks at our bonds. This one right here is the 2010 bond that we are talking about, that lease bond. It is almost completely paid off, which is what creates the fact that we have the borrowing capacity. I'm so good at this stuff. Sliding it. I wanna go there. Okay, this is the graph of our debt service and what we have going on. If you notice, okay, the green is our current debt that's in our debt service. The blue right here indicates what this bond would be, which is gonna be a 2021. If you notice right here, this year we are not starting, we're looking at starting here right around December 2022. Now, notice that we're stable. This right here in this time, this little increase that we have to pay, this might cause a 6 cents, so 6 cents increase in tax as the maximum amount that would increase. When I talked to our financial advisors, they gave us the worst case scenario. We talked about the fact that the AV, our actual AV is actually increasing by about 6% as right now, which will increase the tax levy. And in that case, that'll actually open up more income coming in. We'll be able to possibly lower that. We also have our debt service, which if you notice, after the 1 year, our debt service actually falls and the tax rate will return to a stable amount. Our hope though, with the assessed value, is that that 6 cents will not happen and it will be much lower. Okay, now to show you what this looks like. Okay, so the term would be 13 years and 1 month. This would be the actual amount of the bond, which is $5,308,000 approximately. And when you look at that, that literally is the $5 million we talked about for all the air that we need in both the middle school and the high school. And then the $300,000, which is the roofing, which will complete all of the roofing project for both of these buildings. Of course, we have interest, so adding our interest payments back in, we're I definitely am appreciating the teachers and their smart words right now. Okay, so right here, the interest, we've got 2 interests that we obviously have, and that'll bring up the total of this bond lease agreement to be $5,575,000. Okay. Yes, thank goodness I'm done with that.
All right, at this point, we will hear testimony and questions from the public. So is there anybody from the public has a question or testimony on what they've heard so far tonight? Oh, no. I know. I just said that. Anybody? Okay. If not, the board needs to have consideration for the project resolution. So to complete the project that costs no more than $1 million per building, I will need a motion this time to approve the bond lease resolution in a second, and then we will vote. So I need to approve the bond lease that's under Exhibit A.
You're approving Exhibit A, correct?
Right.
Project resolution.
Right.
Got it.
Move that we approve Exhibit A
motion is second. Any discussion? Questions, real quick?
How soon do we know on the assessed value of the first year of the property tax increase?
They did it. They acted like we would know in time for the November, when we are actually gonna try to, purchase the bond.
Just kind of an indication on, houses used to, the average house used to be 93,000, it's kind of up to like 1.3 now. I'm not sure where that's actually in the scope of the assessed valuation, everything's always like a year behind. So it's probably not quite that high yet, but yeah, that's why they're anticipating. Any other? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, the next one, gentlemen, is the Exhibit B, the resolution of determining a need. So we're gonna talk about why we have a need for this. Per Indiana Code Title 20, Article 47, Chapter 3, the board was advised that it is needed to consider the financing of this project. At this time, it is deemed desirable to proceed with necessary negotiations and all their steps looking toward the financing of the project by the building corporation and the lease of such facilities to the school corporation. Now and therefore, that a need exists for the project and that project cannot be funded from sufficient funds available to the school corporation, and that this board proceeds to take steps as may be necessary to secure the project and leasing of such school facilities as provided by the Indiana Code Title 20, Article 47, Chapter 3.
So what we are going to do now is to approve a resolution determining the need for the project as Exhibit B. Need a motion to approve the resolution?
I move we approve Exhibit B resolution to determine need for project.
Second. Zach. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions? Okay, if not, all in favor on Exhibit B, the resolution determining a need for the project, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And now the next step is going to be that we need to approve that we're looking at a second amendment to the lease. So the lease that we had in 2010, we're going to amend it so that we can get a series 2021 bond. Okay. So resolution approving form of second amendment to lease, and this is Exhibit C. Delphi Community Multi-School Building Corporation has previously been organized pursuant to the Indiana Nonprofit Corporation Act of 1991 for the purpose of construction, renovation, and improving facilities for the use of the Delphi Community School Corporation. We have submitted a proposed second amendment to the lease for the Delphi Middle School, High School building and the preliminary plans and estimates for the completion of the leased premise has been presented. The second amendment lease documents have been marked to indicate the work covered by the proposed second amendment. The document provides the necessary facilities for the students of the school corporation, and that the proposed second amendment with the building corporation provides for a fair and reasonable rental. Be it resolved that the terms and conditions of the proposed form of the second amendment in the documents are approved and agreed as the basis for a hearing as required by law.
Yes. So we need a resolution on Exhibit C for approving the second amendment to the lease. Need a motion?
I motion to move forward with Exhibit C for the resolution approving
form of the second amendment to this.
Thank you. Who is that? Steve, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Anybody have a question at this point?
Just a quick comment, Mr. President, that under Indiana law, school corporations cannot take on debt, and so, just so the public understands, schools have to set up building corporations like this, which take on the debt, and then you issue lease payments to the building corporation to pay for that. I know there's a building corporation member here. They will also, in the process, have a meeting where they approve on their end this lease as well.
Any questions? Comments at this point? All right, again, we're gonna vote on Exhibit C, resolving and approving the Second Amendment to the lease. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, now I'm gonna look at Exhibit D. We have to reapprove the building corporation. This one's a little lengthy. Okay. Resolution reapproving building corporation. Delphi Community Multi-School Building Corporation has previously been formed as a non-for-profit corporation to assist in financing, renovating, construction, and improving facilities within the Delphi Community School Corporation. Now and therefore, the Board of School Trustees determined to be proper and in public interest of the citizens of this school corporation to reapprove the incorporation of the building corporation known and designated as the Delphi Community Multi-School Building Corporation for the purpose of financing, renovating, constructing, and equipping certain school facilities and leasing same to this school corporation. The articles of incorporation and bylaws of the building corporations previously presented to the board are hereby reapproved. The board agrees to cooperate with the building corporation and assist in its fulfilling the requirements of all agencies of the federal, state, and local government. That the issuance, sales, and delivery by the building corporation of one or more series of bonds designated Delphi Community Multi-School Building Corporation ad valorem, Property Tax First Mortgage Bond Series 2021, and a granted principal amount of approximately $5,575,000 is hereby approved. That upon the redemption or retirement of the bonds, the school corporation will accept from the building corporation title to such school facilities free and clear of any and all liens and encumbrances thereon. That this board hereby reapproves the current directors of the building corporation. The building corporation may issue, sell, and deliver the bonds pursuant to the applicable laws of the state of Indiana. The school corporation reasonably expects that tax-exempt obligations issued by or on behalf of the school corporation. The bond will not exceed the amount of $5,575,000 as hereby designated as a qualified tax-exempt obligations for purposes of Section 265B of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. The school corporation reasonably expects the tax-exempt obligation issued by or on behalf of the school corporation, including the bonds as well as other bonds and temporary loan warrants of the school corporation will not exceed $15 million in the calendar year 2021.
Thank you. So we need a motion to, on a resolution to reapproving the multi-school building corporation.
Mr.
Exhibit D.
President, I would move we accept Exhibit D, the resolution reapproving the building corporation.
Thank you. Second?
I do have a question. Just a point of information, Section 6 says that we are reapproving the current directors. Do we need to be seeing a list and approving that list of those directors?
Would you like me to provide that?
I don't know if it's necessary for this, but it would appear to be.
Nick, you've got a copy.
Of the current, I do not have it in front of me here.
Okay, do you want names or do you want me to provide?
Let's get all most of them.
Bradley Burton, I'm president. Daniel Gottschalk from Tippecanoe Township is vice president. Kevin Bender from Rock Creek, I believe, or Liberty, is secretary. Dean Kripe is treasurer. We have three at large. Dwayne Ward from Madison Township. Sean Scott is from the other Rock Creek or Liberty. And then Kevin Kripe is Delphi. Am I missing one?
No, I think that's it.
Does that help?
Just clarification, Mr. Rubin. Kevin Kripe is Delphi or Deer Creek? And are there one or two?
I believe that he's Delphi and Mr. Bender is Deer Creek. Do I have that? I mean, I have that correct, I guess. Bender's Rock Creek. Okay, so I must be missing someone.
Thank you.
So Kevin's either Delphi or Deer Creek, right?
This is formed together with the Delphi, so probably it.
You said Jim, right, but you didn't say.
Actually, I'm Deer Creek, so. Yeah, that explains a lot. Thanks, Ross. You're welcome. Yeah.
All right, any other questions?